Look! Look, the dynamic duo!
Hey guys, welcome to the Dynamic Duo. I'm Franz.
I'm Kevin. Captain America and I have been keeping the world safe from Doctor Doom, the Joker, the Riddler, and the Legion of Doom. But we are back on planet, and the dynamic duo is back on.
Is that what we've been doing? Is that why my shoulder's hurting so much? Kevin, my brother, we've been on a hiatus for quite some time now, and we haven't been able to produce shows. And part of the reasons for that is because so much has been going on in both of our lives. And particularly in your life, you've been hit with some serious issues and some health issues, some home related issues. Like life came at you hard for the past year or so, and I wanted to take a moment to express yet again my admiration for you. You know, yesterday we were talking, and you were telling me how you were doing, and you were telling me basically, without realizing it, you were telling me how you conquered the latest challenges that life threw at you. And I, I want to publicly just acknowledge your strength and your courage. You blow me away, man. I mean, and I want to say this for other people to draw inspiration from that experience, because it would be so easy for people to give up and to look at the world as if there's no hope. But not only did you not do that, but you conquered the challenge and put yourself back in a good place. And I applaud you for that, my friend.
Well, first, I thank you. It is true that I've had quite a few curveballs thrown at me over the last few months. The property here has undergone a series of renovations, and I had to vacate the apartment for several weeks. And during that time, about $1,400 worth of damage was done. That was blow number one. And following that, I ended up in the hospital on more than one occasion, one of which dealt with borderline kidney failure and what have you. But with Captain America's help, the museum, as it were, meaning the apartment, is bouncing back. Um, he paid me a visit, which was fabulous. And during that time, he helped put finishing touches on a number of things that I wanted, um, a number of adjustments that needed to be done for my wheelchair are in the process of finally being done and taken care of. And to put it no other way, um, I'm bouncing back. Maybe for the um 1500th time, but I'm still bouncing back. It takes quite a bit to knock this Jedi back down, and as long as I can get up, you better believe I'm going to.
Dude, you are a true Jedi master, and you're certainly my hero. I mean, I don't think people understand. I don't think that there's a way to articulate. For example, when we talk about your apartment being renovated and you having to move out, and it's not just an apartment, it is the museum. And for those who don't understand, what Kevin has done is that he's decorated his house in such a way as to make it a museum. It's a place where when you walk in, everybody's like, "Wow, what is this? What is that? What is this?" And it's all comic book movies and stuff like that related. And so when people come into that space and start moving things around and putting dust everywhere and just destroying walls, it's the kind of thing that could drive anyone insane. And and again, you trudge through it, you fight through it, and you're back, and the museum is back, and it didn't matter where I was going to come back to try to help that happen. But anyway, just kudos to you, my brother. So now that we're back on the show, there's lots that we've missed, a lot of discussions that we didn't get a chance to talk about. We wanted to do a thorough Superman review. We wanted to talk about the Fantastic Four. We wanted to talk about some of the latest things that are happening, from rumors to Doomsday to James Gunn. I mean, there's so much that we haven't touched on. What is the first subject that you want to hit upon?
Well, I have to say that initially, um, last year and months ago, you and I were very, very worried about the Fantastic Four First Steps movie.
Correct.
And I have to say, when I'm wrong, I'm wrong. Ladies and gentlemen, since the initial release, since the Disney Plus streaming release, I have actually watched that movie 14 times. I have fallen in love with that movie. I think it is very well done. There are elements that I think could have been improved, like with most things, but I honestly have fallen in love with the cast. I absolutely love what Vanessa Kirby ended up doing as Sue Storm, and I have to admit, Evan Moss Backrack as Ben Grimm, he's my hero.
Oh wow. Wow. Wow.
I really have fallen in love with that movie, and I mean it. I have watched it 14 times, and I recommend it for anyone that is a comic book fan. And if you're a fan of the FF, do yourself a favor, sit down for 2 hours and check it out.
And this is relevant because I mean, this is old news. I mean, the movie was already been released and out of theaters, and now it's streaming. But I think this conversation is still relevant because apparently it's knocking it out as a streaming platform, and it's doing very, very well. So we're encouraging people to go take a look at it again. I haven't had a chance to watch it 14 times. I'm going to watch it again tonight because I want to see it again. I've just been too busy running around. And so I haven't had a chance to watch it again. But my initial impression agrees with you. It agrees with you because I think it's a very good movie. I think it's a very entertaining movie. And I love the aspects of it that stay faithful to the source material. As I've always said, as we've always said, the closer you stick to the source material, the better that you do. Now, having said that, I would, and I don't know if you agree or disagree with me, and maybe I'll change my mind after I watch it a couple of times. I do feel that there's a couple of little things that would have made it even better. I do think that the movie needed to bake just a little bit longer. I think they went a little scared, a little conservative, and a little too cautious. I think we needed a little bit more exposition. Ask me where and ask me why and ask me what. I can't really tell you, but I think that I can tell you that I feel like something was. It's not that something was missing, Kevin. It's that something was missing. If you get what I'm trying to say. Um,
Absolutely.
The other thing that I would say about the movie is that as thankful as I am, and this is something that baffles me, as thankful as I am, and as much as I appreciate the fact that they kept Galactus, the fact that they made the Thing look like the Thing because they gave him an eyebrow, the fact that they kept the Fantastic Four, close to their comic book source with the costumes and stuff like that. They didn't do any kind of dramatic change to it. As much as I appreciate that, it baffles me to no when the insistence on changing things that don't need to be changed. Now, changing things that need to be changed is understandable. Changing things in a way that improves something is also understandable. And I'm not complaining about that. I'm simply talking about changing things that do not need to be changed. Comic book fans have a connection to the material. We love the material in an intimate type of way. So little things make a difference to us. And as much as I don't want to complain about this movie because I love it, as much as I'm glad that it's relatively successful, relatively, it did okay at the box office, doing well on the streaming. Um, as much as I don't want to complain, between you and me, I wish they never gave the Thing the beard. I don't get why they did that. I don't. It doesn't look better. In fact, he looks weird in my opinion, and it doesn't even make sense. Why would Rock grow a beard? Like, what the hell? What's happening? That's one. The second thing is why change the look of the Thing? We all know the look of the Thing. We know he's a shirtless, shorts wearing guy. Okay, I could understand maybe you don't want to give him the shorts. I wouldn't do it, but I could understand why you might be afraid to do it. But why put the shirt on the Thing? And why take away the fantastic car? How happy were we in Deadpool? Seriously, it's little things. How happy we were when we watched the first Deadpool movie and we saw the Blackbird take off. And it was like, oh my God, we're watching, oh my, it's the X-Men. We didn't see any X-Men, but that little thing gave us an excitement. And I promise you that seeing the actual fantastic car as designed by Jack Kirby, would have just had a much stronger impact than the Fantastic Car that they came with. Am I saying that the Fantastic Car they came with is a horrible, disgusting? But I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying I just don't understand the insistence on removing things that don't need to be removed. And the baking aspect, I said I don't know where and how. Actually, I lied because I can think of a couple of places. I think that I would have dramatized Galactus a little bit more to make him more appear as more of a threat, more of a danger. I would have shown, for example, a scene where Galactus destroys a planet, himself. Like I would have just dramatized that a little bit more. And then I would have dramatized the final battle scene a little bit more. I'm not saying that it was wrong. I'm not saying that it was bad. I'm saying that when I compare it to the excitement of what I saw in, for example, The Incredibles, if I'm putting the two side by side, I think The Incredibles took it to a level that I would have liked the Fantastic Four to have taken it as well. And so for me, I would give it an 8.5 out of 10. But I hope that whoever's watching this doesn't take away the message as something negative. This is a really, really good movie. If you're a Fantastic Four fan, as Kevin said, you have to go check it out. And you have to check it out multiple times to get little nuances that we missed.
Let me say this in closing. I agree with you more than 1,000 times over with everything you said. Me personally, I hated the Fantastic Car. I told you that a year ago. I thought the design was terrible. And even though they didn't use Kirby's design, even the design they used in the Jessica Alba in Graphold version of the FF was better than what they came up with. My only worry for them is financially, even though the movie did marginally okay at the box office, I am worried that we may not get another movie.
Um, I'm less worried about that than you are. I really am because the movie did well enough. It didn't lose any money, and it made a little bit of money. Um, but apparent two things make me not maybe make me worry less. The number one thing is that it's doing well in the streaming. And so if a movie hasn't lost money, it's doing well in streaming, that bodes well for a sequel because it means more people are willing to go see it because now it's been established. And if you do a sequel that's exciting, that's action packed, that's awesome, then I'm not worried about that. So there's all the incentives are there for them to do a sequel because there's a potential to make a lot of money with a well done Fantastic Four sequel. And the Fantastic Four sequel don't lack subject matter. Like there's so many exciting movies that you could make with the Fantastic Four. One of the things that we always talked about is you don't need to start with Galactus because you have so much more. So I'm not worried about that from that aspect. The other aspect I'm not worried about is the fact that they're rebuilding the MCU. They're rebuilding the Marvel universe, and so it would make sense to continue that line by having sequels within that line. There's something very before I say that, there's something the danger of a sequel not happening is if Doomsday and the subsequent movies within Doomsday don't do well. And there's a possibility of that. And we're going to talk about that in another show, basically this show, but we're going to edit it out. But there's a possibility of those movies not doing as well as Avengers because of a bunch of factors. But if that happens, if those movies don't do well, and they don't need to make $1 billion. I'm saying if they don't do well, then there's a danger of a Fantastic Four sequel becoming less appealing. I'm not worried about Marvel because they still have the X-Men, and I think the X-Men are going to bring a level of excitement that's going to perhaps even surpass the Avengers, but if it's done well. But so I'm not worried about the MCU, but I'm saying within the Doomsday, Fantastic Car, New Avengers, that's still in a perilous state of mind. There's something that the haters don't seem to get. And a lot of people, it's not just the haters, they don't seem to get. Fantastic Four was actually a very successful movie. Very, very successful. Because if the barometer is Avengers, then obviously it failed. It was below expectation. But people forget that the Avengers is an exception to the rule. Endgame and even Guardians of the Galaxy, the MCU, Kevin, got to a point where they were exceeding expectations regularly. They were expected to exceed expectations. And we got to a point where if you don't exceed the expectation, then you fell below the expectation, which doesn't make any sense. We forget that Captain America didn't make that much money. Thor didn't make that much money. In fact, the Fantastic Four has made more money than Captain America and more money than Thor, and almost as much as both of those movies combined on a global scale. So Captain America was able to help grow the Marvel universe. Nobody considered the first Avenger a failure. It was a process, the progress that brought us to the $1 billion end game. So if you're rebuilding the MCU, in a way, you're starting stronger than when you first started. Because if the Fantastic Four is the next step, if Deadpool and Wolverine is the first movie in the new MCU, then you're at the expectations because it defied expectations. It blew away the expectations. It broke the record for rated R superhero movie. And if your follow up is Fantastic Four from the normal scene, then you're Captain America-ing it, you're Thoring it, and so on and so forth. And so the process is there for them to do very, very well, to rebuild it into a crescendo. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to end this discussion here, even though we're going to actually continue the discussion. So follow us for the next discussion, which is Endgame and the next phase of the MCU. What do you think, Kevin? And what's your prognosis?